Hello, it's Emily. Welcome back to my channel, and today I am going to be filming a unhaul video to get rid of some books on my shelves that either I've read and don't think I'm ever going to pick up again, I DNF'd, or I just lost interest in altogether and need more space because I did haul in a bunch of more books. But we'll get through that in another video. But let's hop right on in and I will show you all the books I am unhauling this video. The first set of books I'm unhauling is Death Notes, the complete series. I read the first 3 volumes of the manga and I just don't really care to pick up and continue reading. I did watch the anime years ago and it's just, the manga is just too wordy, and I guess I've grown out of the story because when I watched it, I was a lot younger, and now it's just kind of like, meh, I really don't care to continue on, and there's a bunch more mangas I'd rather prioritize, so I'm going to get rid of this series, and hopefully someone else will love it. Getting rid of Strange World Travel Agency. This one I read, and it was an okay read, but I really don't care to continue on with the series, so I'm just going to get rid of it, and hopefully someone else will love it. I'm getting rid of 16 Souls. This is another one I read, but don't really think I'm ever going to pick up and reread again. It was a good story overall. It did need some work, but I mean, it's still great. It's a young adult paranormal dealing with ghosts. And so if you like ghosts, then I would definitely check this one out. Love on the Brain's another one I've read, and I was just so disappointed because I love the Love Hypothesis so much. And then this one just let me down, honestly. So I am going to unhaul this one and maybe someone else will love it. I'm getting rid of I Captured the Castle. I wanted to love this and I just couldn't get through it. I think I got about 78 pages in and then DNF'd it. I'm getting rid of volumes 1 through 8 of Nisekoi False Love. This is another series. I watched the anime back when it was first released, and then they never fully adapted the manga, so I wanted to read the whole manga series, and I think I've just outgrown it because I'm trying to love it and I just can't get into the story. And I think I read the first 2 volumes and I just wasn't reaching to grab it from all the countless mangas on my shelf, so I want to get rid of it. I'm unhauling Notorious Sorcerer. This is another one that I wanted to love because the cover is so stunning. Unfortunately, it was a meh read for me, and I'm probably never going to reread it, so I'm going to unhaul it. I'm unhauling The Black Tides of Heaven. I did enjoy the book. I just don't really want to commit to the rest of the series because looking back, I remember reading it, but I don't remember much about it. So if it doesn't sit that well in my mind, I don't think it's worth keeping on my shelves. The Wolf Den is another DNF for me. I tried to read and I think I listened to about 2 chapters of it and then just couldn't get through the rest of it. And then it's sat on my shelf ever since, so it's going. I'm getting rid of the Hell's Library series. I read the Library of the Unwritten, but I never got around to reading the Archive of the Forgotten or the God of Lost Worlds. I did enjoy the Library of the Unwritten, but again, it was kind of a middle of the road read for me, so it was not like a series I can live without not knowing what happens next. So I'm just going to not continue on and get rid of these books. Unbreaking is another DNF from mine. I really wanted to love this because this cover is so stunning. However, the writing, it needs a lot of editing, honestly, and I could not get past the writing. It was that bad. And the character herself, for being alive so long, she acts like a teenager, even though she's been alive for several hundred years. So unfortunately, this one's got to go. Another DNF was Vanity Fair. This was one that sat on my shelf for a while, and I finally got around to trying to pick it up. And then I could only get about, I think, 40 pages in, and there wasn't really much plot, and just a bunch of just, you know, social drama. And I really did not care to continue on, so I DNF'd it because I'd rather prioritize books I really want to get to versus trying to force myself to get through this one. I read Miss Dalloway, I believe earlier this year or the end of last year, and it was another meh classic. It was just a classic I wanted to get through, and I pushed through it, but I don't really remember much about it because, again, it was one of those that just doesn't have much plot. So therefore, I'm getting rid of it because I don't think I'm ever going to pick it up again. I read The School for Whatnots, and this one was a good read, but Not one I'm going to actually pick up and reread again because it is middle grade and obviously not my go-to genre, but I'm sure some other person will love this book a lot more and cherish it and reread it several times, though I only read it once. I'm getting rid of the Scorpio Races. It's the 10th anniversary collector's edition, and I got it because I really love this author's other works. Unfortunately, this one just didn't really grip me as much. I got through it, I read it, don't think I'm ever going to reread it, and plot was kind of very average and mediocre. So I'm going to get rid of it because I'm sure somebody else probably loves this book and would love to get their hands on this. So I'm going to try to resell it and hopefully someone else will fall in love with it. I'm getting rid of The Killing Moon and The Shadow Sun. I really love N.K. Jemisin's other work. Unfortunately, I tried to get into The Killing Moon and I just couldn't get into it. And I would pick it up, put it back down, try again after several months, and then it's just been sitting on my shelf. So I'm gonna unhaul it because I don't think I'm ever going to complete it. Mordu is another DNF for me. I really wanted to love this because the cover is so stunning and it did have a strong start, but then it just kind of went downhill about midway point and then I just didn't care to continue on. So I'm going to unhaul it. God Killer is one I really wanted to love because the cover is just gorgeous and the plot sounded so promising. But as I'm trying to read it, I just found myself falling asleep. So I am getting rid of it. I'm unhauling The Many Half-Lived Lives of Sam Sylvester. This is one that I bought back when it was released and then it's sat on my shelf ever since. And I don't really think I want to read it. It's young adult and I think it's a mystery, but I am not one that tends to pick up that genre. So I don't want to force myself to read something if it's not a genre I lean towards. So I'm going to unhaul it and hopefully someone else will love it. I'm unhauling The Books of Jacob. And this one I read because I was intrigued to see what a Nobel Prize winning book was about. It's historical fiction. It's hefty, it's chunky, and it's heavy. And unfortunately, it was a chore to get through and not one I want to force myself to go through a second go around. So I'm going to unhaul it and maybe someone else that just dies for historical fiction will love this book, but unfortunately it was not my cup of tea. And I thought it would have more fantasy in it than what the synopsis led me to believe. I'm unhauling White Horse. This is one that sat on my shelf since I got it in Book of the Month. And it was one I didn't really care, but there wasn't really any good selection, so I just randomly picked this one, and I don't think I'm ever going to read it. Lunar Love's another one I'm unhauling. It's another Book of the Month pick that there wasn't really good picks that month, so I just randomly selected one. And it's just set on my shelves, and I have no interest to read it, and therefore I'm going to unhaul it. These Violent Delights is another one I'm unhauling. I wanted to try to get into it, but then I just have no interest to start the series. Therefore, I'm going to unhaul it because I have enough series that I do need to get through, so I don't really want to add another one to my list. I'm getting rid of All the Dangerous Things. This is another one that I got as a Book of the Month pick, and then it's just set on my shelves because it was another option that there wasn't really much options. And I have since discontinued my Book of the Month because there wasn't enough fantasy options, and I prefer fantasy over mystery thrillers and contemporaries, which is what most of those selections were each month. So therefore, I am going to unhaul it, and I'm sure someone else will love it. Well, I guess that's it for this video. I am getting rid of quite a few books, and so I guess I will have some more stuff on my shelves for all the new books I did purchase, which I will be doing a haul video in a few weeks. I've already done a prior one, and then I got some more books, and so there will be another one coming soon.